Should I do something? Yeah? All right. All right. Good afternoon. I'm not sure how this works. I'm going to introduce myself. There's no MC, so I'm David Trastor. I'm from Amadeus, as you can see by the amount of purple that I'm wearing. I'm here and I have 15 minutes to convince you that seamless travel is not science fiction. It's actually happening now thanks to digital identity technology. Now, we all know that most people are actually not scared of flying, of taking the plane. It's not this that makes people anxious. It's the whole process before the journey. It's the whole pre-flight experience, right? That's what typically makes people anxious, and that's what I want to talk about this afternoon. Before we get there, how was your trip to Chicago? Did you struggle to find your passport? Or like a colleague of mine, did your toddler randomly hid it under the carpet? True story. What about the validity of the passport? Any problem with that, with the 6-month validity for a trip to the US? What about the visa? Or maybe you're like me, you had a problem getting an ESTA, and you were not sure you would be able to get it because of a trip you did to Cuba just before COVID. What about COVID? You know, any other documents that you had to provide? When should you leave home? You know, because all of these documents are going to have to be checked manually at an airport, right, by an agent. You see, we don't think that travel should be as scary as this music. You see, we live in a digital world, but there are so many remains of the old ways of doing things. Why should I show a piece of paper, my visa, to an agent at the airport? Why should I show an ID in the form of piece of paper or plastic card at a hotel reception, right? There must be a better way of doing this. Let's meet Sofia. Sofia is Greek. She lives in Athens. Doesn't she look happy? You see, Sofia has a great benefit as a traveler. She carries with her a digital identity from the Greek government on her phone. She also carries a driver's license, a passport, her travel preferences, frequent flyer, and loyalty program, all of that on her phone within a digital identity wallet. What's that? A digital identity wallet is more or less an evolution of the wallets you all know and use daily to pay in shops or to show boarding passes, the things from Apple, Google. A digital identity wallet is something more. It allows you to authenticate and to share selected information to services, and you can do that at physical touchpoints or, very importantly, remotely, online. Thanks to her digital identity wallet, Sofia is going to enjoy a seamless journey. It's going to be personalized. You see, Sofia likes her window seat, she's allergic to nuts, and she only drives automatic cars. All of that is stored on her phone. She will have a contactless experience thanks to biometrics, and overall it will be a lot less stressful. She'll be a relaxed traveler, and she'll enjoy less queues. So let's see in a bit more detail what that looks like. So Sofia is, she's in Athens, and she wants to come to Chicago for, I think there's an airline conference or something. And she wants to make a pleasure trip out of this. She wants to stop in London on the way there, and she wants to visit the surroundings of Chicago, and she wants to rent a car for that. She ends up on this airline website that offers a bundle with the flights, the car, and a hotel. Just looks perfect, and so she's interested. The only issue is that she's never used that airline before, so she doesn't have an account. The airline does not know her. But you see, this airline is a true modern retailer. It has understood that onboarding is very important. You see, 50% of this airline's customers are first-time customers. So it's important that the onboarding goes very quickly. And for that, the airline shows up a QR code to Sofia. Sofia pulls up her digital identity wallet and scans the QR code. Very quickly, she sees that the airline is asking for her ID, her frequent flyer information, and travel preferences. She clicks on the share button. In one click only, she's created her account. The airline knows exactly what who Sophia is and what she needs. The airline makes an offer. Sophia buys the trip. That was pretty cool, right? Next thing, sorry, that was Sophia. Next tip is the trip preparation. Shortly after the trip, Sophia gets a notification from the airline. The airline wants a passport, a driver's license, let's not forget that she's renting a car, and warns Sophia that she needs to complete her ESTA, and if she wants to, she can consent to the use of biometrics. So, very easy. Sophia, again, through another QR code, sends a passport, a driver's license, and a biometric profile, indeed consents to the use of biometrics, and goes on the CBP website to fill in the ESTA. Shortly after, she gets a final notification from the airline telling her she's good to go, that her boarding pass is attached, and she's already pre-checked in at the car rental and the hotel. Now, Sophia gets peace of mind that everything is going to be fine for the trip, whether at the airport or at destination. There won't be any bad surprise. Sophia gets to the airport. This airport is equipped with biometrics at all touch points. That means that her face is going to be the boarding pass. There won't be a need for a passport or a boarding pass. Never. At check-in, at the backdrop, at security, at the duty-free, or at boarding. So she goes on to check in, prints her bag tag, leaves the bag, goes on through security. She's got plenty of time because that was pretty quick. There was no paperwork to show to anyone. So she's got time to buy a perfume for her friend. And she does a biometric boarding. Well, that was a very smooth and fluid experience for Sophia. She was really happy about that. But not only was that fluid for Sophia, that was great for the airline, because in the meantime, the staff didn't have to do all those manual, repetitive checks, checking all this paper. Well, that's gone. Instead, the staff can concentrate on dealing with exceptions and just providing great customer service. Sophia gets in the plane. She's got her window seat, and indeed, her meal is nut-free. She's happy with that. And at destination, after a long trip, she's happy that she can basically unlock a key cabinet, get the key for her automatic car, and run to the hotel, where there again, because she had a digital key on her phone that she's received, the hotel knew exactly who Sophia was. There's no need to do anything else and to queue at the reception. She goes to her room. She's really happy about that after a long weekend in London and an international trip. So, I'm sure you would agree that sounds fabulous, no? Now the question, is this science fiction or is this reality? I'd like you to realize that this is reality. We are there. If you look at the industry, there's so many biometric initiatives from airlines and airports everywhere. The technology is not the issue. The technology works. We've proven that through so many pilots and experiments, and even now it's in production, right? So this is already works. IATA is moving with One ID. What about governments? There are zillions of initiatives. Let me just give you some selected examples. In India, thanks to Aadhaar and the DG Yatra initiative, 3.4 million passengers have been processed biometrically in only 9 months. It's going to be deployed in 7 airports. It's going to be deployed in 13 airports by the end of the year. And it's probably going to go exponentially from there on. This stuff is in production and works. TSA is working with the phone manufacturers to process mobile driving license in selected US airports. Again, some big names here, Apple, Google. We can only expect a pretty fast adoption of this technology. And finally, what's happening in Europe? In Europe, there's really an intention from the EU Commission to have all EU citizens with a digital ID by 2030. But it's already happening today. The example of Sophia in Greece is not a joke. In Greece, you have a digital identity wallet from the Greek government, which holds your ID and your driver's license. And you can use it today with airlines for accelerated boarding experience. This is today in production. So this is a reality. And I hear sometimes people telling me, oh no, but that's too complicated. The travelers are never going to be able to manage this. I disagree. Through COVID, 2.3 billion, I'm saying billion, EU digital COVID certificates have been issued in over 80 countries. That's a lot of QR codes that have been scanned, processed, inserted in wallets, in apps. People have been absolutely fine managing this sort of complexity. Not only that, but digital identity wallets are in production in many countries. If you look at India, China, the Nordics, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, these guys are using digital identity wallets on a daily basis. If you look at Sweden, over 6,000 institutions are connected to the Swedish ID scheme. They process over more than 2 transactions per citizen per day. They use this stuff on a daily basis, right? So again, this is reality. And we heard this morning that biometrics also was pretty much accepted by people, where they're willing to abandon the legacy way of passport and boarding pass. So yes, it is happening. However, it is still fragmented, right? Can Sophia use her Greek digital ID in London or in Chicago? Well, not today. Can she use her biometric enrollments in any airport? No, sorry, not today. She would have to re-enroll maybe with a different app or at a kiosk or do something, right? So we're kind of breaking the promise. And so what does it mean for you as an industry? Wouldn't you want to help Sophia on this trip? And we know that it's not going to be easy because there are many wallets. There are probably going to be more. There's many standards, many systems to integrate. And that's where we at Amadeus can come in and help. We can help put these pieces together, right? And help solve this puzzle. So what's our goal is to basically guarantee a seamless travel experience door to door. And how do we want to do that? Through partnerships, because there's no way we can do this on our own. No one can. We want to build an open ecosystem, so work with airlines, whether they are Altea customers or not, working with airports, whether they are working with Amadeus equipment or not, wallet providers, governments, of course, hotels, key manufacturers. We're working with them all. We are already doing that today. Again, we're working with IATA on the POC that we'll hear in a few minutes. We're working on the EU Digital Identity, it's a very long, EU Digital Identity Wide Consortium, which is an EU project with over 60 partners where we take charge of the travel use case and trying to make it a reality. And we've built a product which is in production today, which helps travelers be travel ready before they get to the airport. So we are making this today a reality. So to conclude, I talk to airlines a lot. It's a lot of my job, and maybe some of you are in the room. And I know that people have a lot of questions. Which ID scheme should I use and trust? When should I start? How can my legacy process work with this new process? Who are going to be my early adopters among my customers? Where and which country should I start? Why should I start now? Indeed, there are so many questions, and I'll be really happy to answer them. Luckily, I'll be available to talk to you. I'll be available at the Amadeus Lounge. Just follow the purple people and follow the purple. You'll find it there. And let's work together. Let's solve this puzzle, and let's help so people like Sophia have an excellent, stress-free journey. Thank you very much.
our tech. Ooh, look at that. So good afternoon, my name is Kat, and we were just having a discussion on our table, and we actually don't know the audience. So I see some airlines here, I see some airports, I see some credit card providers, I see a couple of other friends. So we also don't know like how you know, oh, thank you so much. I also don't know how well-versed are you guys in digital identity. So who knows digital identity well? Fantastic. Okay, great. Oh, good. I'm working with like 90% of you. That works out very well. So today we're going to go into a deep dive of the end-to-end proof of concept. Did you guys see the video this morning and hear the panel? Great. Okay. So we're going to go into a deep dive on each of those modules. And I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let my wonderful team here talk about, yes. Yes, yeah, should be good. Yeah. Oh, no. After a nice tech break. Should be okay. Okay. And now I'm going to do some karaoke. No, I'm just kidding. So we can do a little bit of start before we get this. So digital identity. Some of you are digital identity experts, world-renowned experts, in fact. I'm a little nervous here in the room. But digital identity is akin to your online fingerprint, encompassing critical information that represents you in the digital world, kind of like an avatar, but not really. Usernames, passwords, and online activities, and one of the most important parts is the zero-knowledge proof. I don't have sound, yeah. Thank you. All right, so I have zero-knowledge proof. I have certain info without revealing the actual data. So today, you saw on the video my passport number, but you actually didn't, because all you saw was my passport verifiable credential. I don't want any of you impersonating me. I know we all look alike here. Some of us could, but no, I don't want you impersonating me. But digital identity is considered disruptive because it transforms how individuals and organizations interact and operate in the digital age. I constantly forget my wallet. I didn't really in the past, but because I have Apple Pay on my phone, my credit cards on my phone, I never carry a wallet around. And it's great because a lot more people are adopting this contactless, seamless tap to pay. So as you heard, we're happy to present you with a deep dive on digital identity end-to-end at POC, where we connected the retailing with the biometrics that you guys know of service delivery that we know well. And today we're going to be taking you through the traveler journey, except we're not going to fly from London to Rome, but we'll take you through the steps of the journey. And the first step is the creation of digital identity. So you'll see here, so you guys are getting the actual, what we actually did for behind the POC. So you'll see here that we start with the physical document and we transition to the digital world. So instead of my passport, I have my digital passport, like I have in my Apple Wallet. But I am not the expert here, and I would rather introduce you to parts of our POC team who were the ones that created this. So Heinrich from ID Now, Victor from SICPA, and Yoon from IATA. Can I ask you to come to the stage, please? And give them a big round of applause, because they did a lot of work on this POC. All right, you guys can sit, stand, dance, whatever you feel like doing. So Heinrich, can you tell us a little bit about the digital wallet?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Heiner. I'm from ID Now, leading digital identity at ID Now. ID Now is one of Europe's leading providers of identity proofing. So we originated in the regulatory space, specifically banking, and help bank to onboard their customers, so they need to identify their customers on the way. Over time, expanded into many industries, and now have a broad set of identity proofing services that we provide to our customers. Most recently, we launched our digital identity wallet, which actually gives a user or a passenger the ability to store his identity in a wallet after he's gone through one of our identity verification processes. So that wallet is then basically a container that holds his digital passport or digital identity card, but it can also hold a number of other things, what we call credentials. So for example, a digital a visa or a boarding pass or a loyalty card. So in this specific POC, the passenger actually starts by downloading his wallet app and going through the first identification process and basically creating a digital version of his passport that he stores in the wallet. And with this, I'd like to hand over to...
Thank you, Henrich. So, well, first of all, my name is Victor. I work for SIGPA. The role of SIGPA in this POC is like a tech provider of decentralized digital identity technology. And as Henry was saying before, so this is a self-service creation of a digital version of the passport, physical passport. And the idea is, once we finish this identity proofing process by scanning the passport and matching actually that the holder is the rightful person of the rightful owner of this passport, then we have some data with some level of assurance that we can transform in what we call a verifiable credential. And maybe if you are not familiar with digital identity and what is a verifiable credential, I'm going to give you some background or context. So the idea of digital credentials is you can think as a, let's say, set of attributes that is a piece of information, digital piece of information that is tamper-proof, and most importantly, it can be verified independently. And this is really, really powerful. So the idea is that after we get all this data from ID Now identity proofing process, we can create this verifiable credential that we are going to, let's say, securely issue to the wallet. And then the idea is when the magic happens, because then the user, the traveler, is in control of this digital version of our passport, and we can decide when we want to share this information with relying parties or verifiers. And then also we can start doing things like selective disclosure. So we don't need to share all the information, we just need to share the information needed. So this is one aspect how we have contributed to this POC by providing our platform for enabling these digital technology capabilities. But as well, in order to make this happen, this POC has leveraged standards and interoperability, because at the end, this is the end goal of this POC. So let's say for designing this digital version of the passport or this verifiable credential, we have also worked with, let's say, international standards of passports. But for this, I'm going to let Yoon continue.
Thank you, Victor. So the passport verifiable credential Victor mentioned actually used the schema that IATA developed. So IATA developed this passport verifiable credential schema to support the OneID standard, digitalization of admissibility. So in addition to the passport VC, we also developed the schema for visa and the ICAO digital travel authorization. And these schemas were available for testing, for industry's testing. And for this POC, we could also test our schema with SIGPA, and SIGPA helped us to further polish that standards. So these schemas are still available for testing. So if you're interested in testing, then you can also reach out to me after the session.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. So let's give them a round of applause on the work that they've done for this POC. Go for it. So as David was just mentioning, digital identity and what we're working on is going to require a lot of collaboration. So you're going to hear from a lot of the team who's done the different POC because it did take a lot to get here. So now I've got my digital passport in my wallet on my phone, and I'd like to start shopping for a flight. One of the questions that we worked with here is how can we use these digital credentials to have a better experience for the customers? So better experience for the customers, I'm going to need Annikit and Hank on the stage to explain how we made this much more customer-centric journey. So a round of applause for them. I'm going to make you guys clap a lot because they deserve it. So Annikit, tell me about the POC.
Hi, everyone. So as part of the POC, Vachaska developed the ability to import a frequent flyer or a loyalty program into a verifiable credential. And today a loyalty program or a frequent flyer number is quite cumbersome to remember and to use, because typically you use it at the airport or once you've made the booking. By converting the loyalty number into a verifiable credential, we built the ability to actually use it as part of the search and book process, which means the experience becomes omni-channel. You can use the verifiable credential as part of the search itself, which means the airline can send an offer to you built on top of your loyalty. Another important aspect, as Victor also already mentioned, is on the selective disclosure, which means that the airline doesn't necessarily need to know who you are during the search, but they need to know just your loyalty tier. So you can tell them, look, I am a gold member, which, because it's a verifiable credential, is very easily verified. Okay? And then the airline can send a customized offer. As you can see in the demo, there is actually a place where we're doing selective disclosure, where we're just importing the tier, and the airline sends the offer. This is the most important part of the entire experience, which makes sure that all offers are personalized for each user. So now I will hand over to Henk as to how it takes it ahead from there.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm not sure if I will be standing in between yourself and the screen, but I explained this a little bit as well in the session this morning. What Trip.com did here is to partner with everybody else here, part of the POC, to build the interfaces between the digital wallet and the shopping experience of the customer on one side, and the same interface on the side with the airline to make sure that we can show the content that is actually, I would say, personalized content depending on the data we can get from the digital wallet. We use the example here of the loyalty program. As mentioned as well this morning, there is a variety of possibilities there. We can access the specific content from the airlines, like we saw with the Avios example, which was the specific example for BA. But there's a variety of things that a retailer can do in between. We can create our own content on the Trip.com site to make sure that it is tailor-made for the customer, and that is, I think, one of the main things. We saw that it came out of the survey that IATA actually did, is that the customer is looking for a seamless process, for speed, for convenience, and that is what we're trying to do with this. To make it as easy as possible. The less clicks a customer has to do on a retailing platform, the easier or the higher the conversion is, both for, let's say, the end partner, which would be the airline, but also for, let's say, the retailer itself. We can see that there's globally a major retailer where you can just by one click, let's say, select a pair of socks, swipe and say buy now, and tomorrow you have it at your residence. So we want to reach the point where the less clicks are necessary by the customer, the higher, let's say, the opportunity of sales and the conversion on the platform itself. And apart from that, the convenience for the user to make it as quick, as easy, and as seamless as possible. That's the part I wanted to add to that. So handing it
Thanks,
over
Henk.
to Kat again.
So actually, just a question. So were you, before this, on Trip.com, able to offer, for example, an Avios or mileage plus the actual cash?
That's a good point, because the main difference here is actually the fact that we get the data from the customer at the start of the booking process. At the moment, when you make a booking, you reach the checkout page, what we call, so the last page where you actually fill in the data. That is where you can fill in your loyalty program, for example. You will be able to, let's say, earn points then from the airline, but we're not able to customize your content, because for doing that, we would need to have the information at the start of the booking process. This project does allow us to do that, to have the data at the start of the project, or of the process, and be able to customize that content by having the details of the consumer. I think a good example was, we mentioned students. At the moment, student content is provided by airlines. We sell it on the site, but let's say the verification process itself at the moment is manual. We have a team at our head office who manually need to check the ID card provided, scanned by the customer, put in their booking process, and there's somebody who needs to check if it is an ID card of a student, and then approve the booking, which is all manual. Through this process, in the future, hopefully, we don't need to do that manually, and that will be an automated process.
Great, thank you. So in fact, you're getting 2 customized offers. One from the airlines, because BA knew that I was an executive club member, and then another customized offer from Trip, because you know my other preferences as well. You know that I actually had 3 loyalty VCs in there.
Yep.
Right? Great, okay. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so how did we actually make this happen? What did it look like in the back? Because Trip.com has my information, my loyalty tiers, what I want to go, but how did we do it? So Ricardo from BA and Anna from AWS, it would be great if you guys could come up here and explain how we did that on the back end. So, all right, round of applause. You guys know the drill.
Right. So from the airline perspective, where can I stand without?
You stay wherever you want.
You know what? I'm going to sit. From the airline perspective, everything changes, right? So up until now, a customer went on OTA to an OTA, and then the OTA would say, hey, there's a request for a flight X to Y, and what's your best offer? Now what happens is when they say that there's a request for a flight from X to Y, but this is the customer. And the customer has a loyalty scheme. In our case, it's the exec club scheme. And at that point, we are able to offer something that up until now we couldn't. And it's been explained up fairly good now that just until now we didn't have that data. But because the customer chooses to give us that data, we can personalize that offer. And that's exactly what we do. And I'll let Anna continue.
So you must be wondering what Amazon Web Services has been doing in this proof of concept. That's a good question. So what we help to do is to enable the shopping flow and actually focus and build a mock API for the NDC. Also, we helped Trip.com with a mock aggregator. So you will tell me, okay, what's the benefit? Because you're Amazon Web Services, you're going to speak about technical benefits, but no, let's focus on trust. Because thanks to this proof of concept, actually, the credentials we're going to pass through the NDC, they are more reliable. So it's a trusted credential. And when you think about the way how OTA pass the loyalty information currently, well, there is, let's say, no guarantee on this liability of this information. And like this, airlines actually can rather focus on becoming more competitive, getting more revenue, and focus on personalization. But if we speak just about the flow, I think we can see it right behind. Just the OTA flow itself is Trip.coms will call the flight aggregator, which is in our case Travel Fusion. Then the flight aggregator would call their airline NDC, and the airline will then double check what's the credential behind and aggregate the corresponding offer. And then this offer is back to the flight aggregator and back to the OTA.
So did we actually touch BA's system, your OMS? No. So this was something that we mocked, right? We obviously didn't want.
Yes, obviously, something that's a challenge that I was talking about this morning is that our systems, each of the components in the whole proof of concept, some areas are there, some others are not. We have to adapt our systems, and for this case, we said, no, let's do a mock-up to see how it would work, because that's going to show us, not only us, but this is going to be a standard. Mm-hmm. Other airlines are going to learn from this proof of concept and say, okay, so if I want to do it like this, these are the steps that I want to follow.
Exactly. Maybe just also to add, these mock APIs currently we built, they can be easily reproduced not only in this proof of concept, but the future one, and it can be easily used by any airline.
That's right, yeah. So I think that's why I want to stress that while we did a lot of this, not mock, the touching and receiving the offer and order from BA, that was a mock. It was a mock OMS that we worked on for that.
It was me.
It was
Physically.
Exactly. And the other thing I wanted to say is that if you guys do have questions, after we run through the demo, the whole team will be available to answer your questions for this. But thank you very much for both of you. You stay here. I need you again. And a round of applause for Anna. Okay, so I've chosen which offer I want, and if you saw that on there, I want the offer that I can use my Avios, my mileage, and also cash, because I have lots of Avios and I would like to use them. So I have, instead of getting the PNR, e-ticket, reference number, etc., I get an order in the next slide, I hope. Yes, here you go. So instead of getting that, I will get an order instead of the PNR, e-ticket, etc. So what happens after I get the order? Ricardo and Aniket, can you please come up and explain the order verifiable credential and why we need it? He already came up, so you don't need to clap for him again. It's okay.
Hello again. So today the order is central to the NDC world, right? If you have OMS in place, you're using the order to identify the itinerary, to identify the passenger. So the order contains everything. So we created the order as a verifiable credential simply so that we could basically identify the customer directly. Once you pass, today, if you want to, how many people, when you're checking in, remember their PNR? Everybody is, searching the email. Where is my PNR number? What did I put? And you go to the website. Nobody wants to remember all this. And so the idea behind a verifiable credential there is that you don't need to remember it. You take the order into your wallet, and once you go to the website, you just say, oh, here's my order, and you have all the details. The order schema is currently non-standard. However, we are working with IATA to build out the entire standard. Right now,
Pre-standard. We're pre-standard.
You're pre-standard, sorry. It's pre-standard. So we have been working with IATA to build out the final standard. Right now, the order only contains the order and the PAX details because the airline systems has all the details of the order anyway. Going ahead, we may have more items come into the order as things work out. And I think that's the important bit. And I think Ricardo can take over from there.
There are a couple of things here. One is, why did we choose order versus PNR? And I think everybody is up to date with order versus PNR and why a single order would be able to solve many problems that we have at the moment when you have PNRs, EMDs, et cetera, all kind of going around one same trip. Putting that into one allows us to just have everything in one place, and the interaction between customer and airline or OTA or both is a lot easier. But it's also about security. If I know your last name and I happen to find your PNR, I can go into your booking, and that's a massive security flaw. With this, because your credential is personal, it's in your wallet, whenever you need to communicate with the airline or the OTA, everything is there and it's secure. And that's, I think, one of the biggest benefits that we have in this scheme.
Great. Thank you both. Appreciate it. So I have, thank you. Oh, good. I forgot. So I've got my order, which is everything that I need to take my flight, almost. But the customer centricity isn't done here. Trip and BA can help determine what's required to travel, like a visa, et cetera. And in this step, we could get an electronic visa and maybe even a DTA verifiable credential, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But in this case, we're only traveling from from London to Rome. So you saw it on the video. We check what the requirements are, and then I'm finally ready to actually check in. But check-in, what we do nowadays will be a little bit different. It's going to become a set of criteria as opposed to a process that can happen long before the 24-hour window that normally happens, unless otherwise mandated by regulations. I had to say that, Bart. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Ursula, who will tell you about the check-in that we tested for this POC. So Ursula, welcome to the stage. So BA check-in, just so you guys are aware, cannot currently do this. So BranchSpace built this capability here. Go.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. I'm Ursula from BranchSpace. I'm not going to talk about like the things behind the integrations and so on that are needed, but I'm going to guide you through the check-in process and from the customer perspective, from Rachel's perspective, checking in, but also just to tell you when I describe the process, it sounds actually like quite a long process, and you will even see how it runs through on the screen, that it is really effortless, very easy, and it almost works on its own. So how it starts is that Rachel, actually, she opens her wallet, she identifies with biometric fingerprint, and she gets a request from BA for her flight to provide the passport details. She checks the data from the wallet and she approves them with full confidence because she knows this is verified data, it's a secure process that she can trust. And this much in contrast to how that would work today, where anybody could basically, with a surname and the PNR data, just enter the data, the passenger data that are available. So the data is transmitted, but British Airways confirms and basically says there will be a notification once the data will be available in the wallet. And at the same time, Rachel has this peace of mind because she also knows she's got her activity panel and she can check at any moment what happens. So she continues with the check-in process. She sees in the meantime, actually, the data from the wallet have been transferred. And she decides to use this data to confirm her data in the check-in process. And this makes it really, really easy for her, completely effortless, just a click to confirm. And at the same time, it has the big advantage, it really avoids any mistakes, spelling mistakes. And we heard from Henk earlier on today that this can be just for Trip.com, the example, and I know for airlines and other agencies it's quite similar, can make up 5 to 7% of the calls at the contact center would receive just because of wrong spellings, or in the worst case, really problems at the airport because there are spelling mistakes in the name. So Rachel continues with the completion of the data. She still has to go through the hazardous goods process and confirm it, and then gets the confirmation from the app. The data is complete, and also she sees that she had opted in for the contactless travel experience. Now she's requested to provide still her biometric image and her boarding pass details for the airport, for the contactless airport experience. So again, she reviews the data, she approves, full confidence, she knows she has full control, very easy. And the app confirms that the data has been transmitted to the airport, and it's just about for Rachel now actually to be ready for her full day of travel, seamless, contactless experience.
Thank you very much, Ursula. I appreciate it. So now I'd like to introduce my colleague Yoon, who's going to explain why we don't have any boarding passes or anything on this. I also want to make a slight clarification because I had about 7 people ask me this earlier today. Why does it say Rachel? And I go by Kat. My name actually is Rachel, but I go by Kat, and that is, I think that was like the most common question after this morning's meeting. So Yoon, can you tell me why me, Rachel, does not need a boarding pass to get up there?
So the boarding pass, from the passenger's perspective, might become optional if the passenger is offered a contactless process. So as you, Ursula, described, when Kat, Rachel, shared her biometric image, she could then at the airport be identified with biometrics and can go through the touch points without any documents. So that's why the boarding pass in the future can become optional. And the processes that Ursula just described are exactly in line with the OneID standards, contactless travel. So this recommended practice, contactless travel, has been endorsed this year and is now effective. So in the room, also we have the working group members together. We work together on this standard. And now the standard is available, and because the RP is high-level description of the process, so we are now currently working on developing the technical specifications to support that standard. So that's...
Thank you very much, Yoon. Appreciate it. All right, so I bought my flights. I have done the check-in process. I have opted into contactless experience. So what does that actually mean? I haven't gone to the airport yet, so I guess I better go, grab my bag. And now I'm at my boarding gate. And I haven't done anything else. I'm not showing my PNR. I'm not showing passport. I am just boarding my flights. It worked. But how did that work? David, could you come up here again? I know that you just had a long 15-minute keynote, but could you tell everybody what we did there and how that worked?
Can I take this?
Yes.
So what happened there? Indeed, the credential that was originally on the phone transmitted through the mock BA site was sent to what we call an IMP, Identity Management Platform. That's basically, I mean, it's a complicated name for basically a photo gallery. Huh? It's nothing more than that. It's a set of photos. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. It's a set of photos that we organize typically per flight. And so when Kat boarded, I mean, when you arrived here, what this machine is doing is basically taking the picture of Kat, looking in the gallery, do I have this person already? Oh yes, we found her, and she's indeed on that flight. So it gave the order to actually open the gate. I mean, there's no gate here, but you can imagine that would have opened the gate. What's interesting here is, for the purpose of this POC, what we've done is integrate directly with our IMP using a proprietary API. Of course, this is an area where we'd like to work with IATA on OneID, because this is something that should be standard among all IMPs. In this particular case, it is the IMP of British Airways, even though for the purpose of the POC, we didn't actually use the production IMP from Heathrow, but it's exactly the same system. This IMP happens to actually be in Sydney as we speak, so that's why maybe there's a bit of a lag. You see there was a, yeah. And last but not least, what is interesting with this solution is that it's connected to the DCS. So if, let's say, a passenger changes seat, changes maybe flight, there's a disruption, he goes on another flight, well, we would know about this, and we would move the passenger to another gallery, the good gallery, so that, if it's a change of gate or whatever, the passenger would show up at the right gate and still be recognized without having to redo an enrollment, as I think is interesting.
So what happens? Can I reboard again or no? If I went back over there,
no,
would they let
you
me in
shouldn't
again?
be able to, Camille here is the guy making this happen. No, normally you should, because you've boarded already, of course, you can only board once. And so, again, here we don't have everything, but normally this is plugged into the DCS. So before getting the actual order to open the gate, of course, there's first to check, is this passenger can it be accepted? If you had an unpaid suitcase, you wouldn't be able to board the plane, or if you had if your documents were not completely cleared. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Pleasure.
All right. So I am now on my flight from Heathrow, and it's going beautifully, and I land in Rome FCO. In Rome FCO, I can use the e-gates using my biometrics, so I'm able to exit very smoothly. But what if I wanted to go a bit further? I'd like to introduce Yoon back on the stage to let you know a little bit more that we didn't do just this for the POC. We actually developed a lot more, and we're excited to tell you more about it. So Yoon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So as mentioned in the plenary session, so we worked with the Australian Border Force to demonstrate the use of digital identity credentials in the government process, which in this case, through the Australian ETA application process. So I just want to take you through, although this is not complete, but we want to take you through the steps, what we were trying to build. So starting with the ETA app. So you need to you need to download the app, and of course agree on the conditions. And can you move on to the next slide? Then you need to fill in your passport information. And here in the first screen, can you come back, please?
Sorry.
Here you can see the use passport from wallet. So instead of going to your bedroom, finding your passport, scanning the MRZ, you can just click one button to share your passport information from your wallet. So this can be done. And then once your passport information is filled in, of course, there are a bunch of other questions that you have to answer. Then once that's done, can you move on to the next? Yes. Then the application is submitted, and you've got your ETA approval on the last screen. And there, you have also an option to save the Australian ETA onto your wallet. So in this case, we were trying to use the IKO-DTA verifiable credentials schema that we developed. However, we didn't reach that far yet because, as I mentioned, we wanted to focus on the other journey that does not require travel authorization. So we will try to build this, finalize this for the next POC. This was actually work together with a branch space who had a lot of communication with the Australian Border Force to compare the ETA app screens and added the wallet integration there, and also condensed this significantly because the ETA original app had 39 screens. So after that work, we could have this mock-up, and hopefully we can finalize it for the next version. And we have also a short interview from the ABF on why and how they participate in our POC.
Great. So, there you go. Oh wait, there is sound. I lied. There is sound. Can I just plug this in and see if it works? No, where would it? Can I have the tech team up to help a little bit? Because I don't know where I can plug this. Oh, here. Got it. I think I got it. Still not, there's no sound. Thank you. So even though we can travel seamlessly and with digital credentials, sometimes it's still hard to have, especially if you don't tell the tech team beforehand because you've forgotten that there's actually sound on these videos. It might be me. Oh, yay. Okay. Thank you. It's here. Cross fingers.
Hi, my name's Don Jordan. I'm the Director of the Future Traveller team at Australian Border Force. It's been my pleasure to work with IATA over a number of years on One ID and other traveller facilitation measures, and in particular this year on the proof of concept for digital travel credentials. Our role this year was to provide our ETA app design so that we could receive a digital travel credential to kick off the process rather than requiring passengers to use a physical passport to create their DTC. And then once that was completed, to provide back an ICAO compliant DTA formatted approval that could go to the traveller's wallet. Working with the proof of concept team, we provided files that showed the layout of our app so it could be provided to the design team. We talked through the process. We discussed how we'd be able to use digital travel credentials in lieu of needing passengers to provide their physical passport in the process. We talked through our experience through COVID apps and the use of physical documents and creating digital travel credentials during that period, and the lessons we learned through it. I think the product we got out of it is a really good example of how these things can work in the future and make things easier for passengers, better for government, and better outcomes for industry. Our key motivation for working in this proof of concept was to look at how we can better facilitate travellers across the border, make their interaction with government simpler and more streamlined. But also selfishly, it allows us to get better data ahead of the border, which allows us to prepare our systems and to look at different ways of doing our business. The use of digital credentials is really important to us going forward, whether that's our own holdings or newly created digital credentials. It allows us to look at contactless processing. It allows us to look at how we can inform our officers ahead of the border so they can be prepared to deal with passengers as they come through in a different way. We have considered adopting these things, and we will continue in the future. Our designs are always being informed by the work that IATA is doing and industry more generally. We're keen to make sure that we're at least as close as we can to being at the front of the queue in terms of adopting these sorts of measures and making sure that we're offering a really good experience for those passengers that are coming to Australia. I look forward to working with IATA again in the future. Thank you.
So although we only showcase the use of passport credentials, but in the future, if more credentials become available, then they can be also used, for instance, like residence certificate, etc. So this collaboration with the Australian Border Force was very meaningful because it shows the potential as to how government can leverage the digital identity credentials in their process so that they can also support the industry to move ahead with contactless and seamless passenger experience.
Thank you very much, Yoon. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Yoon. All right. So as you heard Nick mention today in the GPS survey is that governments also really need to move as well. So in this proof of concept, we work with 4 different governments, and in the end-to-end version 2.0, we hope to work with a few more. So we still have some time to answer your questions. And so what I would like to do is call up the POC team back on the stage and hear from you all to hear what else this thing does not like me, to hear what else you want to ask them. So POC team, could you please come up to the stage and give them a round of applause for all of what they did already. So we don't have enough chairs. We're just going to have to stand some and sit some. So you guys heard a little bit of a deep dive of the technical way that we built these things. And you also heard, it was a very big POC, but it also required a lot of people to help with it. So if you guys would like to have a seat or stand, and then we'll take any questions from the room of anything that you want to hear about. So some of you should definitely sit down, though, because all right. So what are your burning questions to this amazing team who built all of these technical? No questions? We explained it perfectly? Hi, go ahead. We need a, oh, sorry, first one, yes.
Okay. So first of all, congratulations. I think the POC looks very neat, very nice. Actually, I work for a startup, and we had developed a POC for lounge access. And it's kind of like the same technology. What we did was create an app that can take a selfie of the person and then take a picture of the ID. Doing OCR, we can detect the names of the people. And then, in the POC, we could connect with lounges at an airport, so you can reserve your, if you want to go to the airport. And even we could, in that scenario, we just added the priority pass number or your frequent flyer number for you to have access. I guess my question, now that I have said this, and again, congratulations, is how we startups can get into this game. Because I think you guys have all the players. You have the airlines, you have the government, you have the airports, you have the retailers even. So how can we startups that are working in the area get into this field and collaborate with you guys to build this? Because I truly believe that this is not the future anymore. The technology is right there, and we can do it all.
Okay, so I guess first off, there is a startup on stage. ID Now is still considered a startup. ID Now was in our Travel Tech Accelerator program, Accelerate to IATA. They were in the program last year, and when we decided to do this proof of concept, we brought them back in. So startups can get into the ecosystem, but I'm also going to pass this along to different companies, because you guys all work with startups as well. So if you'd like to...
Shall I start since I have the
go for it.
microphone? I think what we've seen now is an example of how this works, right? That doesn't mean that the technologies that we're using right now are exactly the ones that we're going to use. As a matter of fact, we're seeing that all the airlines around the world are using different startups or different technologies to be able to enable this. And we're all testing, and we're all trying to get to the same place. This proof of concept showed that it can be done. And we will need startups. We will need partners. We will need an idea of how to get there. So, continue doing what you're doing, because and your solution is great.
And maybe another answer is through standardization, and IATA is working on providing standards, so that should open up the field. So yeah, when standards are there, but this transformation is going to take a while.
Yeah, but like you said, we've proved it now, and the standards is what we're working on. Everything that we worked on here, not everything, but we were working both pre and post standards. And the more people that adopt those standards, the more interoperable we can be. This is what we were really proving here, is a lot of the interoperability. And so that's, standards are definitely a good way to go for that. Did you have another question, sir?
Absolutely fascinating presentation, and hopefully airports will provide more charging points, because that's my main vulnerability, is the phone battery. Most of the profits that the airlines make come from corporates. Mm-hmm. Okay, corporates require corporate governance, which basically means you've got to know where your people are all the time. Have you considered how you can feed that information back to the employers of the passengers? Because I see the passengers say this is great, but the employers will say, well, it only works if we know where our people are.
So this is something that we were working on. We actually, this POC was big. We only gave you part of the POC. So one of the things that we were working on was an employer verifiable credential, so that instead of the frequent flyer, or in conjunction with the frequent flyer, to use this employer verifiable credential, so that what you were asking for could be a potential use case. Does anyone have anything to add about the employer VC or what we were working on for that?
I think we already mentioned during the discussion that, like we passed the frequent flyer, the loyalty VC, we could potentially pass any other VC. And today, a lot of companies have actually started issuing out VC. So if you go to LinkedIn today, LinkedIn issues out a VC based on your employer of choice. So in the future, conceivably, because we build a trust framework based on verifiable credentials, we actually pass a VC. So it could be an employer VC, it could be even something like a VC for, so you have student VCs. If you're a Hilton Honors member, maybe you pass that VC. So it could be any VC that is conceivably available and entitles you to a special treatment or a discount or whatever.
Like a passenger with reduced mobility, for example.
Yes, even that.
I might add a little bit to that. There are currently regulations that are being developed, specifically in Europe, EIDAS 2, where you create what is called verifiable credentials, which means that the recipient who's getting that information can actually verify the validity, the authenticity of that data. So it is more than just a photo or something that is not, it's actually for the recipient. He's able to verify that via cryptographic protocols.
Okay. Thanks all. I think there's another question here.
Hello. First of all, congratulations. You can probably hear by my accent I'm Australian, so it's really exciting to see that. It's amazing to see what you've done. It's an incredible amount of work, and I can only imagine the blood, sweat, and tears in the background to get it all done. My question is that national digital identity schemes are that. They are national. And we need to develop an international trusted framework where we each trust each other's digital identity. How do you see that? How do you see the different the maturity of digital identity in different regions, and how do you see the interoperability and trust, especially given geopolitics at the moment isn't the easiest thing to navigate?
Yeah, go for it.
So we're based in Europe, and there is a lot of discussions ongoing, but it's mainly focused on Europe. So when you look at international, so specifically the travel case, I personally don't feel that the European process will necessarily be the first to give an answer to the big problems, which is sort of international travel between continents. So I think there are international ICAO was named before, that are governing bodies around standards that seem to be much more promising in delivering these standards.
I think there's another mic over there too. Yeah.
They're all here.
Oh.
Maybe we should.
My take on this is, I mean, there will be some standards like in Europe. That there's an intention. There's even law now that is going to make it easy to have a German ID used in France, or these things are going to happen. By 2030, 80% of the EU population is supposed to have a digital identity. So that's going to work. But then, is that going to be interoperable everywhere? Well, I doubt it. Frankly, I mean, the way it looks, and so far the way governments have behaved, whenever they trying to do something different, they did it. If you see the regulations that we had for COVID, that was insane, right? and I don't see why it would be different for digital identity. So by default, I would assume that it's going to be a bit of a mess, and that we're going to have to put things together, and hopefully standardization will help. But we've seen there's already very good advanced systems in China, in India, in many countries. Are they going to redo everything? I doubt it, frankly. That's my take only, but.
Go ahead.
Okay. I can add some perspectives from IATA's viewpoint. So we understand a lot of countries are implementing national digital identity across the world, but I think the major movements are from the EU and also the ICAO digital travel credential, of course. So from the IATA standards perspective, we are trying to be aligned with them as much as possible and also be compatible with them. So what we are trying to do is to monitor what they are currently developing and trying to align ourselves as well. Like, for instance, for the EU DI, they are using W3C and some specific messaging protocols. So we, IATA standards, also are trying to use them as well and stick to this W3C and also decentralized approach to comply with different privacy laws and regulations across the world. So that's really the basic. And also from the advocacy point of view, for other countries who are implementing national digital identity, community, we are trying to also engage the governments to let them know what the industry has come up with. You know, our standards with based on W3C, and also asking them to support and accept our, our digital identity credentials that we are using. So that is the effort that we are currently making, and probably will continue through the next year and beyond.
Yeah. I think one of our team members on the POC.
Yeah, thanks, Dan from Accenture. So, yeah, and I just want to, I guess, augment what Yoon said. She kind of beat me to some of the punchline there. But so what makes a globally interoperable digital identity? The best example is the passport. But it's purpose-built for government use only, for cross-border travel. There's no selective disclosure. There's no zero-knowledge proof. It's you present everything or nothing. 193 member states under the tutelage of a UN organization, ICAO, meet and agree on these standards that are the low-level standards are based on ISO SE37 Working Group 3. I say that only because Working Group 10 define mobile driver's license standards. So 18013-5 is also, to what Yoon said, the European Digital Identity Wallet uses basically two standards, the World Wide Web Consortium W3C standards and ISO MDL standards for in-person presentation only. Their -7 will be remote presentation. Anyhow, there's a lot of standards that are in use and under development. So the best example is ICAO, a UN organization that's defining these standards, and this body is defining standards for travel.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dan.
Well, first, thank you for that very good presentation and taking us over the deep dive. And congratulations to the team for that great effort. I have a specific question coming from ICAO. I have that always in mind. It's very automatic. Is it any part of this process that you have described and showed us today with the videos? The passport is actually authenticated. The chip data is authenticated and verified?
So that would be part of the initial onboarding, the initial identification process. And that needs to be yet defined, but yes, it is. I mean, one way of doing it would be an NFC readout with an authentication. That would be one potential protocol, but these protocols and what is the required onboarding need to be defined yet.
Mm-hmm. So it's not yet defined, so it's yet to be defined. To check, for example, the validation up to the source and the issuing authority?
So I believe it's not finally defined because it also, but I would hand over to you.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit now. So how it is now in the POC is the traveler is taking the passport, is scanning the data, and then doing this identity proofing is matching the biometrics of the liveness check with the photo from the passport. And this is sort of the level of assurance that you get. And this data then it's, let's say, converted to a verifiable credential. So in this case, the Asian authority is fake.
Yes, yeah. I understand that. That's absolutely, but you don't verify when the data is scanned that who actually emitted or issued that passport. So you don't link it to the issuing authority.
No, I think it's just scanned from.
So,
yeah.
Yes. So what is important is, this is for. Hi. What is important is to remember that this whole initiative is for the industry to use. It is not for government to accept or use it for their border process, right? So if you imagine the current process, current ID check, airlines do not access government database to see whether this document is authentic or not, right? Same as this. they can, of course, our issuers, they will do their due diligence to ensure as much as possible to ensure that this passport is valid and authentic. However, they will not get to that, government level of checking, right? For industry, we can still use those technologies, and we can trust, and then as long as it can be trusted and it can replace the current manual ID checks, can be used for non-government touch points. Yeah.
I'll just ask one point of clarification. So when you were talking about in the provisioning process, that facial recognition check, that photo that you're using the photo, because from the video it looked like you're just using the photo on the biodata page, you're not reading the chip. How are you getting a decent facial recognition match? Because I mean, I know that's been very problematic and getting any type of good results because of the optical variable devices that are put over the photo to protect the image. So I'm just wondering, that's why most people do use the chip image for that. So I'm just kind of wondering how that was done, just to ensure, especially because we know we have problems in the system. And I know, yes, it's not for government use, but there still could be people who are trying to use like morphing to game the system, and that will just make it that much harder for you to detect it if you're using a primary image that's not as clean as it could be.
So, I mean, there are different standards globally. We were talking about Europe, and specifically in Germany, we have a digital identity card that you would read out, and we actually would have the certificate of reading out on behalf of the government, that chip, which, however, is based on a plastic card plus a pin. But there is also the possibility of using the document, using the biometric image on the document, and then doing various checks on the authenticity of the document, as well as on the check of the identity of the one that is presenting it, with liveliness check, with various levels of detail of check. But that depends on what is eventually being permitted by regulators as the minimum standard. And that's an ongoing discussion in Europe, for example, in different countries of what is the minimum level.
Okay. So quickly, because we are out of time as well.
Oh yeah, sorry, very quickly.
Yeah.
It depends really on the use case as well. If it's just for the purpose of APIS data, well, today, I mean, it would be too much to read the chip, right? I mean, airlines don't do this today. They just look at the passport and that's it. If it's for biometric boarding, or if it's maybe for crossing a border, that's another completely different use case. So I'd say, it needs to be appropriate with whatever the airline is doing.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we have run out of time, and IATA will get mad at me if I don't shoo everyone to the drinks eventually. But very quickly, what I wanted to say is that we are going to start end-to-end version 2.0 in 2 weeks. I've just told the team that we're going to start very quickly. And if you have any questions or comments, or you want to join us on this journey, we would love to see you, and we'd love to hear any feedback that you have. If there's any other questions that you may have, the IATA, the booth is available. You can see everything. We've got them on our phones. You can try out the demo. You can't board, only the people from our team can because of GDPR, but we're happy to take you through the demo and happy to show you this in real life. And so I'd like to say one more time, thank you so much to this amazing team. And if you've got any questions, we are here for you. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Hey.